Rachel thought her mother's secret was harmless, just a name she'd never heard before. But when she found her own birth certificate hidden in a box under the bed, the truth shattered everything. Because the person listed as her father didn't even exist. And what happened next made Dr. Phil stop the show in silence. The moment began like any other episode. The soft hum of studio lights, the steady breathing of a nervous audience. But when Rachel unfolded that fragile piece of paper, the room changed. Her hands trembled, her voice cracked, and for the first time, her mother, the woman who'd built her world, couldn't meet her eyes. A lifetime of certainty crumbled in seconds. And what Rachel discovered next would unravel an entire family's past. The studio is dead silent. You can feel it, the kind of silence that presses against your skin. Rachel sits on the stage, her fingers locked around a birth certificate that looks older than her own memories. Dr. Phil leans forward, his voice calm but heavy. "Rachel, tell me, what happened when you found this?" She swallows hard, eyes darting toward her mother. Denise sits a few feet away, pale and shaking, her hands clasped like she's praying this will all stop. Rachel's voice is small but steady. "I was applying for a passport," she says. "They asked for my original birth certificate. I thought I'd lost it, but my mom told me it was probably in one of her old boxes." She looks down at the paper again, tracing the faded ink. "When I found it, I saw the name Michael Evans listed as my father. I thought, okay, weird, maybe that's why she never talked about him. So I searched for him." Dr. Phil tilts his head, and Rachel's breathing quickens. He doesn't exist. There's no record of him anywhere, not in public databases, not in old census archives, not even in the hospital system where I was born. Nothing. It's like he was never real. The audience shifts. You can almost hear the collective breath they're holding. Rachel's tone changes, anger slipping in now. "So I asked my mom, and she said it must have been a paperwork mistake. But something in her voice didn't sound like a mistake. It sounded like fear." Dr. Phil's eyes narrow slightly. "And that's when you started digging." Rachel nods. "Yeah, I couldn't let it go. Every night I'd search again, social media, genealogy sites, obituaries, anything. But every single time, the same result, nothing. The more I searched, the more I realized my mother was the only link to this name." The camera pans to Denise. Her face is pale, her lips pressed tight. You can see the battle in her eyes, the truth trying to break through decades of guilt. Rachel turns toward her mother, voice trembling but sharp. "You could have just told me. You didn't have to make up a person." Denise finally speaks, barely above a whisper. "I did it for you." The words hang there, echoing through the quiet. Dr. Phil leans forward, speaking gently. "Denise, I think we both know that's not the whole story. What are you protecting her from?" Denise's eyes flicker with tears. "You don't understand. I had no choice." Rachel's voice cracks. "No choice to tell me who I am. No choice but to lie." Dr. Phil raises a hand, steady, calm. "Let's pause right there. Because when people lie about where someone comes from, it's rarely just to deceive. It's to hide something, maybe shame, maybe fear, maybe something they can't face." The lights dim slightly, and the camera zooms in on Rachel's hands still gripping the certificate. You can almost hear her heartbeat in the silence that follows. She finally looks up, her voice barely a whisper. "Then tell me, who is my real father?" Denise freezes. Tears slide down her cheeks. Dr. Phil looks between them, his voice lowering. "Rachel, I think it's time we go back before the lie started. Before that name ever existed." The narrator's voice fades in, soft and deliberate. She thought her mom was hiding pain, but it was something far bigger. One missing name had just begun to unravel a lifetime built on lies. And what Rachel was about to discover would rewrite everything she believed about love, loyalty, and truth. If you discovered your identity was built on a lie, could you still trust the person who raised you? Or would every memory start to feel like fiction? 2 weeks before that moment on Dr. Phil's stage, Rachel's world still made sense. Her life was ordinary, simple. She had a steady job, a cluttered apartment, and a mother she trusted more than anyone else on earth. It was a Sunday morning. Rain tapped against the window, the kind of lazy drizzle that makes you want to stay inside. Rachel had decided to finally clean out the old storage boxes in her bedroom closet before leaving for a new position overseas. She hummed softly as she worked, until she reached the bottom of a box labeled private. She froze. Her mother's handwriting. Neat, deliberate, protective. Curiosity got the better of her. Inside were bits of her childhood. A hospital bracelet, a tiny lock of baby hair, and a folded birth certificate that looked older than it should have. The edges were yellowed. The ink faded. She unfolded it carefully. Her heart skipped. The name Michael Evans glared back at her in perfect black type. She frowned. "Oh," she whispered. Her pulse picked up as she scanned the paper again, certain she'd misread it. But it was clear. Michael Evans, father. That name had never once come up in 28 years of her life. Rachel pulled out her phone, curiosity bubbling into unease. She typed the name into a search bar. Michael Evans, born 1970, California. Dozens of results flashed up, but none matched. Not one photo, not one social media profile, not a single record of man who supposedly existed. She tried again, narrowed the search. Still nothing. The quiet room suddenly felt smaller. When she called her mother that night, Denise's tone was too casual, too quick. "Oh, honey, that must be a typo. You know how hospitals were back then. Probably a mix-up with paperwork." Rachel didn't buy it. "Mom, it's typed. It's not a handwriting mistake." Denise's voice faltered. "Sweetheart, don't worry about it. You know your father left before you were born. The name doesn't matter." That was the first time Rachel noticed it. The tremor in her mom's voice. The hesitation. The tiny cracks in a story she'd always accepted without question. That night, Rachel couldn't sleep. She sat on her couch, the document laid out in front of her like a ghost. She stared at the name, whispering it under her breath. Michael Evans. Over and over, like she could conjure a face if she said enough. The next day, she started digging deeper. She pulled up ancestry websites, birth records, genealogy databases. Each dead, and made her chest tighten. It wasn't just that she couldn't find him. It was that there was no trace at all. It was like her life had been carefully edited, one man erased from existence. Rachel leaned back in her chair, rubbing her eyes. "Who lies about a birth certificate?" she muttered. But a part of her already knew. Mothers lie only when they're protecting something. Or someone. She scrolled further, to local hospital archives, to old newspaper clippings. And that's when she found something odd. A missing record from the maternity ward that same month she was born. Pages redacted, files unavailable. Her breath hitched. "This isn't an accident," she whispered. She texted her mom again, this time more directly. "Who is Michael Evans? Please don't lie to me." 3 hours passed. No reply. By midnight, Rachel was pacing the living room, the glow of her laptop casting harsh light across her face. The longer her mom stayed silent, the louder the question became. If her father wasn't real, then who was? And then a thought hit her. If her mother wouldn't tell her, maybe someone else would. Someone trained to find the truth. She opened Dr. Phil's website. Her fingers hovered over the contact form. She hesitated, then typed, "My name is Rachel. I think my mother lied about who my father is. The name on my birth certificate doesn't exist. Please help me uncover the truth." She hit send. And in that single click, she set something massive in motion. Something that would pull 2 families into the light and tear through decades of secrets. The narrator's voice fades in softly. It started as a simple cleaning day, but ended with an identity crisis that would rock a family to its core. Every record she searched came up blank. Every answer she thought she knew was about to collapse. And what Rachel found next would change the definition of family forever. If your family's truth was buried under lies, would you dig it up, knowing you might never look at them the same way again? A week after sending that message to Dr. Phil's team, Rachel found herself back at her mother's house. Not as a daughter visiting home, but as a detective walking through a crime scene of her own life. The air smelled like lemon cleaner and nostalgia. Family photos lined the hallway, smiling faces, birthday candles, and vacations that suddenly felt artificial. Rachel's eyes lingered on one picture. Her, as a baby, held by her mom, no man beside them. She felt the familiar ache of missing someone she never knew. "Mom, I'm just going to grab a few things from the attic, Rachel called out casually. Denise, in the kitchen, barely looked up. Sure, sweetheart. Don't trip on the ladder. Her voice was light, too light. Rachel climbed up into the attic, the wood creaking under her weight. The smell of dust and old secrets filled the air. She turned on a small flashlight and scanned the stacks of boxes. Christmas decor, Rachel's school stuff, old letters. Her heartbeat quickened at that last one. The box was small, tucked behind a stack of photo albums. The handwriting on top was unmistakable, her mother's. Inside were dozens of letters tied with a red ribbon, some addressed to people she didn't know, others unsigned. Her hands trembled as she opened one at random. Most were harmless, old love notes, scribbles from a different life. But near the bottom was one envelope that made her heart stop. The handwriting was shaky, emotional, and the words on the front read, "To my daughter, when you're old enough to know the truth." Rachel's breath caught. She sat back on her knees, staring at the envelope like it was alive. Every instinct screamed to stop, to put it back. But curiosity, that ache that had followed her since the moment she saw that name, pulled her in. She opened the letter slowly. My Rachel, if you're reading this, it means I didn't have the courage to tell you myself. There are things I hid because I thought it would protect you. The truth is, your father isn't who you think he is. The name on your birth certificate, Michael Evans, I made him up. I had to. I was young, scared, and I made a mistake I could never undo. The man who is truly your father doesn't know you exist. He was married. He was someone I loved, but could never have. I thought I was protecting everyone, him, his family, and you. Rachel's hands shook violently as she read. She could barely breathe. Her eyes darted to the next paragraph. His name is David Calloway. He was my best friend's husband. I never meant to fall in love with him. It just happened. And when I found out I was pregnant, I panicked. I thought keeping your origin a secret would save you from shame. The words blurred as tears filled her eyes. She pressed a hand against her mouth to stop a sob from escaping. She whispered to the air, "You lied to both of us." The sound of footsteps creaked below. Her mother was coming upstairs. Rachel's heart pounded as she quickly folded the letter, sliding it into her pocket. Denise poked her head up through the attic door. "You okay, honey?" Rachel nodded stiffly. "Yeah, just found some old stuff." Her voice was flat, detached. As her mother went back down, Rachel sat frozen in the dark, the letter burning in her pocket. Every memory of her childhood replayed like a movie. Every bedtime story, every birthday, every time her mom said, "Your father wasn't ready for family life." It wasn't grief she felt now. It was betrayal. She drove home in silence that night. The city lights blurred through her tears. She replayed every conversation she'd ever had with her mother, searching for cracks she'd missed. The next morning, she sat at her kitchen table, the letter laid out in front of her like evidence. She whispered, "David Calloway." The name felt strange on her tongue, like a word she wasn't supposed to say. She searched for him online, and within seconds, found him. A successful architect, married, photos of him at charity events. And in one picture, his smile, the exact shape of her own. Rachel stared at the screen, heart pounding in her chest. "You don't even know I exist." Her hand trembled as she hovered over the message button on social media. Her mind raced. What if he thought she was crazy? What if she destroyed his life? But she already knew she couldn't unknow the truth. She whispered to herself, "You started this, Mom. I have to finish it." And with one click, she sent a message that would set off a chain reaction decades in the making. The narrator's voice fades in, low and deliberate. It wasn't just a lie. It was a life carefully rewritten. The truth had been buried in ink and silence. And what Rachel didn't realize yet was that the man she was about to meet had been living with his own ghost for years. Can love ever justify a lie that big? Or does the truth always demand to be found? The morning Rachel decided to find David Calloway, the world felt strangely quiet. Her coffee went cold in her hands, untouched. She'd barely slept. Every hour of the night, she had reread the letter like it might suddenly change, like her mother's words could rewrite themselves into something easier. But they never did. David Calloway. her mother's best friend's husband, the man who never knew she existed. Rachel sat at her laptop, staring at his professional website. His picture smiled back, confident, put together, completely unaware that his past was about to walk right through his door. She whispered to herself, "You can't just show up." But she also knew she could not. By midday, she was parked outside his firm, a modern glass building that reflected the sky, the kind of place where everything looked too clean to hold a secret. She sat there for a full 10 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, heart hammering. Then she took a deep breath, grabbed her bag, and walked inside. The receptionist looked up. "Hi, can I help you?" Rachel's voice wavered. "I need to speak with Mr. Calloway. It's personal." Moments later, he appeared. Older now, streaks of gray in his hair, but the same eyes she'd seen in her own reflection her whole life. He smiled politely, assuming she was a client. "I'm David Calloway. How can I help you?" She hesitated. Every word felt dangerous. "My name is Rachel. Rachel Green." She paused, watching his reaction. "I think you might have known my mother. Denise Green." The change was instant. His smile faltered. His eyes flicked away. A ghost passed over his face. He nodded slowly, guarded. "Yes, I knew Denise. It's been years." Rachel took a breath. "I think there's something you need to see." She pulled out the letter, unfolding it carefully and placing it on his desk. She wrote this. David's hands trembled slightly as he picked it up. His eyes darted across the page. The color drained from his face. When he finally looked up, his voice was a whisper. "She never told me." Rachel swallowed hard. "Told you what?" He stared at her, eyes wet, voice cracking. "That you existed." The silence that followed felt endless. For the first time in her life, Rachel saw recognition in another person's eyes, a mirror of herself. The jawline, the eyes, even the way they both rubbed their thumb when nervous. David sat back, shaken. "I always wondered why she left so suddenly that summer. I asked her over and over if something was wrong. She said she needed space. I had no idea." Rachel's voice was small. "You were married?" He nodded. "Still am. 30 years. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "And now this. I don't even know what to say." She bit her lip. "A DNA test could confirm it. If you're willing." He hesitated, then nodded slowly. "You deserve the truth." Weeks later, the test results came back. 99.99 match. Rachel sat alone in her car, staring at the printed result through blurred eyes. The truth she'd been chasing was now real, and it felt heavier than she'd ever imagined. She met David again, this time in a quiet park. He looked nervous, older, humbled. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "If I had known, I would have been there." Rachel's voice cracked. "You can't apologize for what you didn't know. But you can decide what happens now." He nodded. "I want to know you, if you'll let me." She smiled faintly through tears. "I don't know how to start." "Then we'll start with honesty," he said. But not everyone was ready for honesty. David's wife found out, and her reaction was nothing like forgiveness. The old wounds Denise thought she'd buried came roaring back to life. Late-night calls, threats, blame. The fallout rippled through both families. Rachel's phone lit up one night with a message from her mother. "Please stop this. You're ruining everything." She typed back, "You already did." For days, Rachel avoided her mother's calls. But then came one message that changed everything, an invitation. Dr. Phil's producers reached out. "They want to help us talk, all of us. Please, Rachel, call me." She didn't respond right away. She wasn't sure if she was ready to forgive, or if forgiveness even mattered anymore. But something in her heart knew the story couldn't end in silence. As she stared out the window, city lights blurring into streaks of gold, Rachel whispered, "Maybe the truth isn't the end. Maybe it's the beginning." The narrator's voice returns, calm but weighted. 2 families. One secret, 17 years buried. The DNA didn't just reveal a father. It revealed the cost of a line meant to protect. And now, all of them would face that truth together, under the lights of Dr. Phil's stage. Would you confront someone who built your entire life on a lie, even if it meant breaking 2 families in the process? The studio lights are blinding this time. Harsher somehow, like they can't decide which truth to illuminate first. Rachel sits in the middle chair, eyes focused straight ahead, a box of tissues untouched beside her. To her right, her mother, Denise, pale and trembling. To her left, David Calloway, the father she's known for less than a month. Dr. Phil's voice cuts through the silence, calm but heavy. Rachel, when we spoke yesterday, you said you weren't sure if you came here for answers or closure. Do you know now? Rachel exhales, voice shaking. I thought I wanted answers. But the truth doesn't just answer questions. It creates new ones. The camera zooms in slowly. Her eyes are red, tired. I spent my whole life wondering what was missing. Now I know, and I don't know what to do with it. Denise breaks, tears streaming down her face. I never wanted to hurt you, she whispers. I was young, stupid, and terrified. When I got pregnant, I didn't know how to tell the truth without ruining everyone's life. Dr. Phil leans forward gently. Denise, what were you afraid of losing? Her hands twist together. Everything. My best friend. My reputation. My job. And when Rachel was born, I told myself that lie would protect her from my mistakes. But lies, they grow. They take over your life until you don't even know who you are anymore. Rachel's eyes narrow. Not angry, just exhausted. You told yourself it was to protect me, but it was really to protect you. Denise doesn't deny it. She nods, broken. Dr. Phil looks at Rachel. Do you want to forgive her? Rachel looks down at her lap, silent for a long moment. I don't know if I can forgive the lie, she says softly. But I can't hate her either, because she's still my mom. Every memory I have, every scraped knee, every bedtime story, that was real. The lie doesn't erase that. The camera pans to David. His hands are clasped together tightly, knuckles white. If I had known, he says quietly, I would have been there. I would have fought to be in her life. But Denise, you took that from both of us. Denise breaks into sobs. I know I did. Dr. Phil lets the silence breathe, a choice that feels deliberate, heavy, necessary. Then he says, the truth doesn't always bring peace. Sometimes it brings pain before it brings healing. What matters now is what you do after the truth. Rachel wipes her eyes, then looks at her mother. I came here angry, but sitting here, I realized the truth didn't destroy me. It just destroyed the version of me that was built on lies. Dr. Phil nods. That's powerful, and it's something I've seen before. When lies fall apart, you don't lose everything. You just lose what was false, so something real can finally begin. A soft murmur of agreement rises from the audience. Rachel turns to David. I don't know what kind of relationship we'll have. I don't even know what to call you, but I do not want to try. I've gone too long not knowing half of who I am. David nods, his voice low but firm. You can call me whatever you want. Just let me be in your life. For a moment, the three of them sit there, broken, raw, but connected in a way that's almost sacred. Dr. Phil ends with a steady tone, filled with empathy. You can't rebuild what's broken overnight, but you can decide what you build next. And sometimes, forgiveness isn't about forgetting the lie. It's about choosing to stop living inside it. The audience exhales. The tension releases like a breath that's been held too long. A soft instrumental plays as the scene fades into a quiet montage. Rachel and David meeting again weeks later, laughing awkwardly over coffee. Denise joining them at a park, hesitant but smiling. The three of them sitting together, not as strangers, but as survivors of the same truth. Rachel's voice carries over the final images, calm and reflective. The truth didn't destroy us. It set fire to the lies we were living. My mom didn't lose me because she lied. She lost the version of me that believed she was perfect. And maybe that's okay, because love doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. The last shot freezes on Rachel hugging both her parents. 3 lives tangled in truth, learning to exist in the same light again. When the truth finally comes out, can love survive what it reveals? Or does it become something new entirely? If this story moved you, take a moment to reflect. Sometimes the truth doesn't break families, it rebuilds them differently. Share this story with someone who's holding on to a secret too heavy to carry alone. Because honesty may hurt for a moment, but silence lasts a lifetime.